to understand a little process before that. So we know Khazan's products are food, let us say paddy, rice, vegetable, whatever, salt, fish, and these are like basic common sense, it's common knowledge. But let me also widen that scope so that you understand that the output of Khazans are the communities of Goa. That's the scale you need to understand Khazans about. And I myself is one small example of that. I've grown in Khazans. I've played in paddy in our house. I've rolled on the salt. I've caught kulyo in the agor and bhazlyo thoins ani khalyo. And what I am today is a product of Khazan, because my studies were supported by this process of Khazan, and what I have achieved today is, I would say, is a product of Khazan. And therefore, like there are so many of us in Goa today, communities of Goa, which are product of Khazan. And this is not going to be like today's thing. It's going to be there. It's going to be there because Khazans are here to stay. So, in one such interaction of discussing about Khazans and some of the research which I myself had done, we came across this idea of supporting Khazan formally. And our mentor, Dr. Claude Alvarez, as you know, any matter which has to go to a next level, you need a catalyst. That catalyst we got on that moment. And then there was this suggestion from him is, why not create a formal society? And that's how Khazan Society of Goa was born. Okay? So in that background, and all the objectives Poonam has already highlighted to you, we are here today, and we are here as a varied community. We are not here as farmers only, we are here in all formats. We are here to support Khazans in all formats. From an artist to a farmer, to a researcher, to a youth, to a student, in all formats. In formats that would even include the documentary that you will see. In formats that will include high-level, high-degree research, and formats that would include just having a pasoi on the bar. All formats. And therefore I invite you to be part of this in whatever way possible, as a registered member or as friends. I look forward to all of you being part of this community support, because Khazans are community systems. Thank you.
Kabir Naik is an award-winning documentary filmmaker and media entrepreneur based in Delhi and founded Kajulo Media. His specialization is non-fictional media, and his films, through his mind eye and lens, portray the subjects of cultural communication, representation of rural issues, agrarian distress, environmental degradation, and commodification of culture. And we congratulate him for his film on Khazans, which has been shortlisted in the top 20 at Nagari National Level Documentary Filmmaking Competition 2023, hosted by Charles Correa Foundation, and wish him the very best for the next round of top 10. Kabir, we have a recorded message from him, and we'll be hearing, and the documentary is 30 minutes.
I made the film about the Khazans because Khazans hold a very crucial role in my life. The first documentary I made was about the Khazans, and I've grown up around the Khazans, which is why also understanding what the Khazans are, who made them, why they are so important was really crucial to me. And with my format, which is long form documentary filmmaking, it is a very in-depth study of any subject, and the Khazans was a very interesting topic to study. One of the main reasons I wanted this film to reach to more and more people is because these systems have been made by our ancestors, and the credit was never given to the people who deserved it, who designed it. And this was a film to talk about this, to put this into conversations, to have academic discourse about this, because we need to document these systems. These systems hold a crucial role for the survival of Goa and the world. We're talking about a climate resilient world. These systems and more such indigenous systems from around the world need to be studied, need to be documented, need to be shared. This is what matters. This is the way we look at development needs to change, which is why we need to understand the importance of such systems. And this was just a small attempt from my side to experiment with my medium and try to make a piece that remains, that talks about the Khazans, that advocates about the Khazans, and that is what the entire motive of making this film was.
मित्रों, मैं सबसे पहले तो आप सबको एक बात कहना चाहता हूं। मैं पहले कभी बहुत गोवा नहीं आया, मगर जब पार्टी अध्यक्ष बना तब गोवा आने का, बार बार आने का मौका मिला। संगठन के काम से, सरकार के काम से, चुनावों के अंदर, और जब ऊपर से गोवा को देखते हैं तो महान परशुराम भगवान ने बनाया हुआ क्षेत्र बिल्कुल ऐसे दिखता है जैसे मां भारती के कपाल पर बिंदिया लगी हो। इतना खूबसूरत प्रदेश है।
खंय पळय तेका हांव कालयता त्या आदारान सगळें म्हाका गावता। होच देव म्हणून मानता। बाकीच्यांक कोणाक मानूंक पडटा, लोकांक वयचीत तो देव खंयचो अहो म्हणून म्हणना। देव कोणूय करचें, खंयचोय करा, फातर कर आनी कितें कर, मातीच व्हडली म्हणून म्हाका दिसता, आनी खरी व्हडलीच दिसता ती।
तुमच्या भुरग्यापणाच्या आमकां कितें सांगात मातशें, म्हणजे कशें आसा तुमच्या भुरगेपणान?
भुरगेपण बरें आसलें। कामाक वचपाचें, देखून दर्यान वचपाचें, पॉयंट फडसोवपाचें, मिरसावपाचें, वांयगण करपाचें, शेत तें रोवपाचें। हें खूब करताले नोकरी कितें, भोंवताले म्हणटा भुरग्यापणान हांव उदकान नाले खेळ्ळो देव बरें, मागीर तेच प्रमाणे खेळोंक जायना। थोड्या आपणाक जाता तितको चूड खेळ्ळो हाडो उरतलो। मागीर फुटबॉलान बीन खूब खेळ्ळा आतां खेळटा भुरगे फक्त आपयता सकाळी उठून 7 उठून आमी गेले काम कितें लाटये उदीक काडलें मागीर गुरगो म्हणून करता तेतून काडलें मागीर ते येयलो पेज जेवलो मागीर कामाक गेलो कोणेगेर गावता थंय गेले जाल्यार कितें आसा पळय तें आपणाचें काम केलें शेतांचें हें करून आमी मागीर ते 12 सुमार परशोंक गेले तें हाडलें नुस्तें कोणाचे आंबोचे तोर काडले तें हाडलें अशें करताले तोरीच काडटाले हांव कांय आनी कांयच काडप ना एक तोर एक घेवन परशून येयले उडयले नुस्तें घरा मातशें न्हिदले ते हुमण जाता म्हणसर उठले जेवले बिवले अडेच 2 सकयल गेले खणपाक सगळें शेत हातीन घालताले सगळें व्हडलें उडयलें मागीर पावसान तें जोत धरपाचें तें ना म्हणपाचें सगळें हांगा विमान म्हणून बारीक तें हातीन खणटाले म्हाका चडशें शेताचेंच काम आवडलें तरी पूण
Khazan system comprises of 2 parts: of water bodies which are differently placed and the land portion. So typically, if we consider that this is the Khazans of Mirses, Murda village, that part which you can see the structures are the settlement areas where the farmers lived. So farmers lived there, and you can see that portion, that mangrove line which is there, that was the bund which is partly bridged there. You can see the water. So as a child, I would walk down, and all my community farmers would walk down from here. And these mangroves that you see are the fields of the farmers, which are inundated now. And this is the point. So these are low-lying lands with an external tributary or a stream coming from the river into these low-lying lands. So these are all lands below sea level. Now, if a community plans to make this land productive, because these are basically below sea level land and inundated. So if a community thinks I need to make these lands productive because I need to sustain, I need food, I need water, and these are my basic needs at that point of time, when people actually transitioned from food gathering or from the forest to food growing. So these were the periods thousands of years back. So simply this logic came to their mind that if I embank the outer water body, maybe this inundation will drain out and then I will have land. And these are alluvial soils, so they are very fertile in terms of agriculture. So with all these in mind, these lands were drained with the embankment of a bund, which we in English know as a dike. Now with the dike, the inundation was controlled. So there was ingress, the ingress of saline water was controlled. Now there was also internally rain water or storm water which had to be drained. So because of which a component of sluice gate was introduced into this dike. So the sluice gates regulated the internal water draining as well as external water entering. So this is the second component. So we have the bund, we have the sluice gate, which we locally call as manus. Now, if we have the sluice gate, we also needed an internal water body, because through that internal channel of that water body, the water from the internal part of the land had to get collected, and then through the sluice gate it had to drain out. So therefore, we had an internal water body, which is locally called as point. So therefore now we have 4 components. We have the external water body, which is the tributary or the river. We have the bund, we have the sluice gate, and we have the internal water body. So these became the basic components, and now the rest of the components became the cultivable or the productive land. Now this productive land were terraced at different levels. The lowest level usually were either fish breeding places because they were waterlogged, and or salt making places. That was the one crop from there. A slightly higher elevated land or contour land would be cultivable fields, maybe a slightly higher again another level of cultivable fields, and then settlements where people lived. So these are the communities who lived there, and they got out of their houses and came to work here for their food production. So these are basic components, how the systems evolved over the years, and these were all evolving due to their experiential learning. So maybe they built the bun in some bad way, they corrected themselves. Maybe they built the sluice gate in a bad way, they corrected themselves. Today what we have is that evolved learning of theirs as a Khazan ecosystem.
माझे जे पूर्वज आसले त्या पूर्वजांनी ही मानस हांगा पयलीं घडयल्ली आहा. जेन्ना भायर दर्यो भरता तेन्ना हे मानशेक दारां पळय जी आहा न्हू ती दारां बंद जाता, आनी जेन्ना उदक सुकता म्हणजे लो टायड येता तेन्ना हे दर्याचें उदक सकयल गेल्या कारणान जे पळय खाजनांनी वयर पोंयक आमचें जें उदक आसता तें लो टायड जाल्या उपरांत ही दारां जी मानशेची आहा ती ओपन जाता आनी उदक भायर वयता. दिसाचें जें पळय नुस्तें कितें आसा ते दिसाच्या टायमार भायर येना. जेन्ना मातसो काळोख जालो, काळोख जाल्या उपरांत हांगा जाळ लावपाक मेळटा. ते जाळ हांगा फिशींग नॅट आहा ते हांगा धरल्या उपरांत आमोरीच्या टायमाक जेन्ना उदक भायर वयता लो टायड आसता तेन्ना त्या टायमाक हांगा नुस्तें पडटा जाळाक. मागीर कांय थोड्या वेळान भरती येयल्या उपरांत परत हाची तशी मानस बंद जाता. ही मानस जी आहा ती हांगा शेतकार आहा तेंची मानस आहा, आनी हांगा 120 किंवा 130 असे शेतकार आहा. ते शेतकार ही मानस पयलीं सुद्दां हांगा चलोवन येयल्ले आहा. आनी हो जो बान आहा तो बान ते सगळे शेतकार पळयता. ती शेताची कमिटी आहा ती कमिटी सगळी हेजी पाहणी करून पळोवपाचें काम ते शेतकाऱ्यांचें आहा. ती कमिटी काडिल्ल्या ती देखरेख करता. बानाक केन्ना असो मदीं होल पडलो आमी भोम तेका म्हणटा, तो भोम पडलो जाल्यार तो भोम काडटलो जाल्यार कमीत ते 2-3 मिटर डीप खणचें पडटा. मदीं जे बानाचो सेंटर आसता ते मदीं फोडून म्हणजे 2-3 मिटर लांबी आनी 2-3 मिटर डीप इतलो फोडचो पडटा. तो फोडून तो पयलींचो जो चिकोल तितून माती आसता ती काडून भायर उडोवन वयर सायडीक दवरून न्यू तेजेर फ्रेश चिकोल घालचो पडटा आनी तो पुरोवचो पडटा. ही जी मानस आहा ती मानस शेतकारांची जाली सुद्दां जाल्यार तिजी आमी हांगा पावणी करता. पावणी जाल्या उपरांत आमची अशें आहा की शेतकारांचो कोण एक मनीस आहा तेकाच दिवची, कित्याक भायल्यान कोणाकूय दिली नाल्यार ती पिड्ड्यार करता. ही मानस आसल्या कारणान भितर आमची एक पोय म्हणटा तिका आमी ती आहा. तितून नुस्तें पिकता. नुस्तें पिकल्या उपरांत ते जंय कोणाक मानस दिल्ली आसता तो तें नुस्तें विकता, दाळ धरता विकता आनी तेजेर कितें तरी कमयता आनी आमी ती मानस तेका जशी अमक्याच एमावंटाक दिल्लेली आसता ती तेका एक पडशी येता, लॉसांनी वयता आनी फायद्यानूय आसता. पूण तितले व्हडलोसो तेका फायदो असो आसना तरी आसतना तो कितें आपलें शेत आसता म्हणून ते काम करून ते जाता तितली तगोवन धरपाचें करता. आनी जे मानशेचे जे पयशे आसता ते आमी बानाक यूज करता. थंयसर बोंब पडलो किंवा खावटे पडले कितें काम आसा तेन्ना ते आमी पयशे थंय यूज करता. शेतकाराचेर जे कितें मेळटा मानशेचेर तेजेर ते काम करता आमी. ही शेतां सुद्दां रोवपाक हांगा खूब त्रास जाता. जेन्ना हायटायड येता किंवा वयलें उदक सुट्टा, धरणांचें उदक सुट्टा किंवा भायलें उदक चड येयल्या कारणान एक पट्टो बांद असो भरोन फूल वत्ता. बांद फूल वतल्या उपरांत कितें शेतां बितां सगळीं पिड्ड्यार जाता. शेतां बितां सगळीं पिड्ड्यार जाता आनी त्या टायमाक खूब अशे त्रास जाता हांगा. तरी आसतना लोक फाटीं फुडें पळयनासतना ते काम करता आनी एकदांचे कशे तरी ते सावरून घेता. जर तर हे बांद नासले जाल्यार म्हाका दिसना ही खाजनां आमी रोवंक पावतले आसचे, म्हणून ते आमकां केन्ना रोवपाकूय मेळचें नासलें आनी तेजेर पोटूय भरपाक मेळचें नासलें. हे बांद आमी पुर्वजांनी आमच्या पयलींच्या जाणट्यांनी सगळीं तेंकोन धरल्या, तशेंच काम करून करून तेंच्यांनी ते धरल्या. ते आतां फाटल्यान थोडी पिळगी आहा ती चलयता, ते काम करता. तेका लागून ही आमकां खाजनां रोवपाक मेळटा. जर तर तो बांदाक कितें प्रॉब्लम जालो जाल्यार ते बांदाक आमकां खंयच्याच शेतकारांक शेत कितेंच रोवपाक मेळपाचें ना.
ह्या शेतान म्हाका 20-25 वर्सां जालीं. हितून येता आतां न्हू 25 वर्सां जाता. शेत नासलें म्हाका. हें लोकांनी दिलां व्हरोन आपूण. हें कोणाक दिल्लें पिकां नासलीं तेवडी. ती आमकां कितें आनी कांय नासलें न्हू. कामाक गेलो कोणागेर जाल्यार त्रास करताले. 1-2 वरां दवरताले. हें अशें कर तशें कर. तें करचे भशेन आपणें केल्ल्यान करून खाताले आमी. तें केलें, रोंपे लायले, कांदे लायले, मिरसांग तयार केली, काळंगां घातली, खावपाक जाता मरे. आनी ती तांदूळ सुटी जाता ते विकूंक जाय. नुस्तें घेवन येता, कितेंय करूं येता. तितून आमी कितें कितें करून जगताले. कपडो करून घालून. तुका बरें करतलो, बांदाक करतलो, हें करतलो तें ना. हेंच तूं पोटो करपाक जानेरान म्हणटा. जानेराच्या म्हयन्यान मागीर खणलें म्हणटकूच तें तापता न्हू. तापलें म्हणटकूच मागीर ती मेळ्यो घालच्यो पडटा तेका. मेळ्यो घातल्यो 5 फूट रोव मारचो पडटा. तें आतां कर्जतूच घालता. पयलीं जया घालता न्हू तें व्हडलें म्हूण तांबडें म्हूण नाचें घालतालो. तें सगळें व्हडल्यान कर्जतूच घालता 5 वर्सां. पिकताय बरें. रोव मारलो म्हणटकूच तेका उदीक पळोवपाक जाय. मेन उदीक खंय उचूड आसा जाल्यार भायर मारचें पडटा. दिसूच थारोवन दवरचें पडटा. मागीर मातशें सांग 15 दिसांनी जालें की नोडपाक जाय. नोडून 15 दिसांनी जालें मागीर ना 15 दीस म्हणजे 20 दीस वयतात. मागीर सारें मारचें पडटा. पयलीं मुनाक सारें घालून काडूंक जाय आं रोवता आसतना. आनी मागीर नळ्ळ्या उपरांत मागीर पुरो 2 म्हणल्यार पुरो जाता. आनी कीड बीन पडत जाल्यार तेका मागीर पळोवंक जाय. इतकें काम करूंक जाय. आनी फाटीं फुडें जाय जाल्यार मागीर तें सारकें न्हू. टायम येयलो. त्या म्हयन्यान म्हणजे त्याच म्हयन्यान व्हरोंक जाय. 5 फुटां जाल्यार ती मिशीन मागीर धांवता जायना. खूब काम आसता तेजें. भुरग्यांक सुद्दां भुरग्यांची बरें बरें म्हणून न्हू शेतालें. थोड्यांक तें आतां शेतूच रोवन घेतात लावन घेवन. आतां पळयना तूं पळय उरला. मनीसूय कोण येयना. मनीस येतलो आनी करतलो म्हणून आपणेन करपाक जाय. आनी तुका भंय ना मरे. सकयल देवान नुस्तें धर व्हर खाय जाय.
रायस सद्या आमकडे आजगो कोरगूट आनी गव्हर्मेंटान आतां हे हाडले हायब्रीड वरायटी गोवान 1, 2, 3, 4 ते हाडले. सद्या आमचे कुट्टर हे रोयन आमी ज्योती जया देखून ट्रान्सप्लांट करताय खाजनांनी. कार्यक्रम दिवपाक जायना पावसाळ्यांनी कार्यक्रम क्रॉपार. आतां आमी 2 क्रॉप काडटाय सद्या रबी आनी तारीख. पावसान काडटा तें तारीख क्रॉप काडटाय. थोडे आतां फॉर एग्जांपल कुत्तर येयले घरा आमी शेत रोयताय तेचो. आतां एंड ऑफ सप्टेंबर ते निवताय मागीर त्या बंदारा बांदता आमी. बंदारा बांदील म्हणटच उदक बंद जाता. पावसां तें ओपन जाता बंदारा, तें उदक रिवर्स द्वार वयता राडे जाता तें पावसान. आतां ते आडायता सेकेंड क्रॉप काडपाक, रबी क्रॉप. ते आडी आड पडटा. आड म्हणटा आमी, शेती आड. आमचो रोय बिजनेस म्हणटा आनी रोयल्ल्या त्या फार्मरान 2 lakhs स्क्वेअर मिटर जमीन रोयल्ल्या. हितून ताणें जया वेरायटी घाली आनी ज्योती हे दोनी वेरायटी रोयले ताणें. आनी आज गोवा कोरगोट म्हणटा ते आमी राशोल आनी कांबल्ले लोटले थिंग जाता आमगे ते मेंबर. आमची एक टीम आहा एग्रो बायोडायवर्सिटी टीम म्हणून. ते आमी एकलो एक भाशेन करता. थोडे आसा ते आमी रोयता, थोडे आहा ज्योती कर्ज ते घालता आमी. दुसरो दामगा आहा पयली वेरायटी. दुसरे आडीम आसताय डबल क्रॉप काडपाचे, तारीफ आनी रबी क्रॉप. हितून आमी पाटणी बी रोयताय. हे ट्रेडिशनल वेरायटी हांगा रिवायव केला. त्या करपाक आमकां गोवा स्टेट भायर बोर्डान सपोर्ट केला. तेच आमी एक प्रोजेक्ट केल्लो. एक 25 क्विंटल हें व्हेल्लें आमी भात. तें तांदूळ करून हाडला कित्याक वॅल्यू एडिशन म्हणटा तेका. ते आमी केल्ले आहा.
In the most simplified word, Khazans were community systems. They were created by the community and therefore they had to be managed by a community. And if you see, they are not manually operated systems. They are auto managed systems. But they needed a few people to be actually the watch dogs kind of that area, because these were water-based systems, remember, and water is not an idle element. It is an organic element. It can completely flood you or completely give you food. So they converted themselves into communities at a large scale for larger decisions or bigger decisions, small scale committees for 24 hours watching on these components, because these were components which were completely at risk with water. So this was the model. The smaller committee watched or observed the sluice gates, the barns, and what was getting inundated, what was being useful. They collected small kinds of taxes between them so that they managed the systems. They had their own offer. It's like Shramadhan that we do. They offered their own services, the manual services for the upkeep of the band every year. They offered their technique in terms of the carpenters who were there to manage the sluice gates. So these were all a collective. It was never a system where you tendered and you ordered. It was a collective.
There was one treaty between the one Afonso Mexia from the Portuguese and the locals in 1526, and the man who signed it is called Afonso Mexia. This is dated 1526, when the Portuguese government with the locals, with the comunidades, came to an agreement how to maintain comunidades. 1526. And this continued up to 61. Comunidades were republics, local republics. Nobody is to interfere. And to regulate that, there was a código das comunidades afterwards. Laws, rules, rule book. This was done with comunidades of India, Tiswadi. And then it was applied to Bardez and Salsit. And then it was extended to the new conquest. Everything was defined by law. Now you could do nothing. Now comunidad lands that were given on lease for affirmation, there are rules by how much square meters you give to each person. Within how many years he had to develop it. What were the conditions to give it? They could not give to person who had lands, those who deserved it. and then you could not divert the land use for some other thing. Agriculture is agriculture. Now Zuari has got so much, many acres of hectares of land. Now they are converting it into building in this settlement.
Khazan areas are vast and they do not belong particularly to one person as such, because they have been reclaimed, and then what has happened is all the settlers who did that have divided the property as part of, say, shareholders, and they have to maintain it together because one person cannot just regulate his water flow or something. So there is a committee, there is an association, tenant association, or earlier Komunda structure over there, and Komunda were regulating this with a very nice system where different roles were given to different individuals and groups. Like somebody used to just look after the barns, somebody will look after the sluice gate, some people will look after the fields, and accordingly the work was divided. And there were supporting roles. Later on, government introduced Agricultural Tenancy Act, under which tenant associations were formed, and they have been given this task of maintaining the barn and sluice gate and to ensure fishing and mainly cultivation. So they are regulating it, but due to government inefficiency and corruption, currently this system has crumbled. What you see behind me is actually all these are the most productive and fertile fields of Tiswadi in Karam. We are standing at the meeting point of Nevra Khazans and Karambalin Khazans. This bridge is there, which is actually connecting these two things. But if you see now, we used to survive on all the produce of this, but now you only see mangroves because water has been released into these fields and mangroves have grown. It is difficult to even step into these fields. Earlier we used to walk for more than 30 minutes and all and to go to our fields. But now it is impossible. Nobody is cultivating for the last 30 years.
हे आता बुडयता आणि दर्याक पाणी येयलें म्हणटा आनी सगळे आता हे आनी पयशे खातात थंय बसून आनी थंय शेतकाऱ्याक काबार शेतकाऱ्याचें जगनच सगळे बांद बीन आतां हे ते गव्हर्मेंट सुद्दां पयशे पळोवंक म्हणटा तर गव्हर्मेंटान काम केल्लें अरे काम करता आनी ते झाडां काडटा तेंची काळा मरे काडपाक जाय तुमकां पडटा हें आतां झाडां आहा पळय कोणाचें अशें जावं हें तपास करपाची काडपाची काय म्हणटा तुमी थंय इतके शेत करता आनी तुमी पाट हाडटा ते कितें सकयल बांदनाक ते 10-30 हजार लागता मानसीक दूर लागता तेजे मानसीचे बी पावस करता पळय ते बांदनाक थोडे मोडटा मागीर बेश्टे काम करचें पडटा.
After the liberation, the local government, local state government created parallel authorities. The revenue department were parallel authorities. The soil conservation department was a parallel authority. So if something goes wrong with this bund right now, the tenant associations have limited power of limited to 5,000 rupees. With 5,000 rupees, hardly anything can happen. The individual service offer which the community had has kind of deteriorated because the systems have deteriorated in terms of their production. So there is a very minimal crop which is happening. We look at land, we look at its value only in terms of construction. So therefore, if it is slightly low, we try to fill it, reclaim it and build buildings over it because our sense of development is a building. So therefore, these bunds become motorable ways, then slowly they get tarred, then the land lying besides it, whether it's a salt pan, whether it is a fish culture pond, whether it's a field, will be looked at by somebody as some resort, some hotel, some building, and especially the areas which are closer to the urban. Urban areas have heavy pressure on the Khazan land because people around think such a vast amount of land, why is it left open? Let me fill it and let me build buildings, because people are quite far away, the settlements are quite far away. Funds which are required prominently, especially in terms of emergency, those are kind of mismanaged or not available. Daily level of maintenance, yearly level of maintenance, long-term measures of maintenance, and these are simple measures. Look after your sluice gate. Who is supposed to look after? If it's the individual, he has a responsibility. If it's community, he has a responsibility. If it's the authority, they have a responsibility. Look after your bund, look after its bridges, look after its elevated level, because sea level rise has to be taken care of.
Mainly the coastal areas of Kiswadi. So Kiswadi, the importance of Khazan is too much, because most of the land has been reclaimed. Almost 69% of the land available in Kiswadi is Khazan land, and it was supporting so many families. First of all, that was a major, let's say, benefit of Khazans. Environmentally, it was protecting us from the floods, like say from the seaside and even from the river side. Whenever there is to be heavy monsoon, Mandavi, Zuari rivers are full. So because of these bands which are above sea level, slightly above sea level, fields are below sea level, we were protected from the floods. So that was a natural protection. Now that protection is not there. There is a possibility that within some years, since bands have been damaged and climate change is there, water level is rising, the water will slowly reach up to the village, like into the doorstep of the villagers.
तुमकां कशें दिसतलें जर बिल्डिंग आयल्यो जाल्यार?
आमकां दिसना जालें न्ही, दिसतलें जावतलें करूंक शकता न्हू.
तुमकां वायट दिसतलें?
हय तर वायट दिसतलें. ही शेतान आमचे काडले दिल्ले पयशे घेतले तरी आमकां दुख्ख आसतलें. शेताचे भुरगे तुका आसता आनी तेंकां तें भरतलें करताले. मरतले मरचे ते भावचे दाखोवन ते भशेन करूंक मागताले. लोकांचे कोणाचीच पळयना.
We do need to discuss and go deeper, don't we? May I invite our panelists? I think we are waiting for them.
Who are they?
So our panelists today, I was to begin with Dr. Claude, but I will Let's begin with Dr. Pradeep.
On the way.
Is also on the way. Right. Dr. Ramara Surya Wag. Welcome, sir. A distinguished individual whose contributions extends across academia, leadership, and community activism. Dr. Wag is currently an associate professor and serves as director of Masters in Computer Application Program at Goa Business School of Goa University. Notably, from June 2020 to May 2022, Dr. Wag held an esteemed position of principal at Kala Academy, Goa's College of Theatre Arts. Within the hallowed lands of Goa University, Dr. Wag has played pivotal roles, including membership in Executive Council, Academic Council, and University Code. His scholarly pursuits have resulted in publication of numerous scientific papers in both national and international journals. Beyond the academia realm, Dr. Wag is a dynamic force and has actively engaged in social, cultural, and political spheres, channeling his passion for positive change. One remarkable achievement that stands out is Dr. Wag's leadership in opposing the Marina project in Navshi Bangole, and his efforts played a pivotal role in safeguarding the livelihoods of traditional fishermen and protecting the environment, exemplifying his dedication to sustainable development. He continues to be a strong advocate for the revival of uncultivable Khazan lands in Neura, Mandur, and Karaboli villages. He is now exploring innovative initiatives such as Khazan's agro-ecotourism to support local farmers' livelihoods while preserving these ecological significant lands. Let us give him. Our hero has arrived. Dr. Claude Alvarez. In 1976, this young man earned his PhD from School of Philosophy and Social Sciences at Eindhoven University of Technology in the Netherlands. The family relocated to Goa in 1977, and he established the other Indian bookstore in Mapsa in the 1980s. With the enactment of India's Environmental Protection Act in 1986, Claude co-founded Goa Foundation, dedicated to raising public awareness and challenging non-compliance with environmental laws. And then in 1990, the Other India Press was founded, focusing on publishing books related to organic farming, homeschooling, and environmental issues. Dr. Alvarez has consistently advocated against genetically modified crops and actively opposed Monsanto's efforts to introduce genetically modified vegetables, including brinjal, and it's a GI tag now. His influence extends to governance as a member of Goa Coastal Zone Management Authority under the Ministry of Environment and Forests. Additionally, he serves on Supreme Court Monitoring Committee on Hazardous Waste, established by the Supreme Court of India. Dr. Claude Alvarez, we extend our gratitude for being the beacon to all of us. Dr. Lukita, is that right? Okay. So now yes, our friend. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to introduce my friend, Mr. Paul Fernandez. Please. A distinguished senior journalist with rich and illustrious career in media industry, particularly in Goa. Mr. Fernandez embarked on this journalistic journey with now defunct West Coast Times, and his commitment to the profession led him to contribute significantly to Moving Goan, a Konkani Roman script daily. Throughout his extensive career, he lent his expertise to esteemed publications such as Herald, Gomantak Times, the Navhind Times, and the Times of India, where he retired as a senior assistant editor. Even in retirement, Mr. Fernandez remains an active freelancer for the Times of India and contributes to other publications including Goa Today. What truly sets Paul apart is his unwavering dedication to reporting on critical issues, with a particular focus on social and environmental matters. His reporting has been instrumental in raising awareness and effective positive change in Goa and beyond. Thank you, Paul. Elsa. She holds the esteemed position of founder-president of Khazan Society of Goa and serves as a dedicated member of Santa Cruz Biodiversity Committee. Her remarkable effort in Khazan conservation have earned her recognition from Goa State Biodiversity Forum, showcasing her unwavering commitment to the environmental preservation. Additionally, she has been honored as State Resource Person, having been empaneled both National Institute of Rural Development and Panchayati Raj and the Goa Institute Public Administration and Rural Development. These appointments underscore her expertise and valuable contributions in the field of rural development and environmental sustainability. Her educational background is equally impressive, with master's degree in environmental architecture and a law degree. Currently, she imparts her knowledge and passion for these subjects as a dedicated lecturer at Government Polytechnic, Kavtem. Thank you, Elsa, for inspiring so many of us. So, Kavir is joining us online, I suppose? No. Okay. So, do we wait for Dr. I did that. Micromanagement?
Pradeep's intro to give because he'll join us immediately on the stage.
Okay. So, we are waiting for our guest, Dr. Pradeep Sarmakadam. He serves as a nodal officer of state-level steering committee for climate change and at least 6 more related boards and committees. Dr. Pradeep has amassed 15 years of experience encompassing mega hazards, industries, boards, and turnkey environmental consultancy. Within the public sector, he has made significant contributions in the areas such as environment, biodiversity, wetlands, climate change, and waste management. Not surprisingly, for the last 8 years, he has served as a HOD of Goa State Wetland Authority, demonstrating his unwavering commitment to environmental conservation. Beyond his environmental endeavors, Dr. Sarmakadam is also a talented performing artist holding the prestigious title of Sangeet Visharad, an Indian classical music vocal, and his artistic talents have been recognized and approved by All India Radio. With that, I now invite Mrs. Sangeeta Nayak to take the stage to moderate the discussion and, of course, a few words about her. She is partner at Digital Goa, which is a Kavtem-based news media company. She has nearly 15 years of experience in teaching computer science in Goa, Delhi, Malaysia, and Western Michigan University tuning program for UG and PG courses. And before I hand over to you, Sangeeta, I have been told to also, this is parboiled rice, brown rice from Nestor's farm. Who's Nestor now? Where is he? There he is. Thank you, Nestor. And over to you, Sangeeta, and to the panels.
Thank you very much, Poonam. Before we start with the panel discussion, thank you all for being here. The farmer whom you saw in the movie, Mr. Eknath Kautankar, okay, it's almost when this was recorded, he was almost 102, 103 years old, and a happy, contented person who lived his life by worshipping his soil. He died on September 6th. Today is his 11th day, and I want all of you to just he's a role model of sorts. So I just want all of you to stand for a minute and give respect to the departed soul. Thank you so much. A very good morning to all of you. It's a proud privilege to be talking to this panel. जशें आमी आमच्या फॅमिली मेंबराचे जावं आमच्या क्लोज मनशाची कन्सर्न आमकां आसता, माया आसता, अपुरबाय आसता आनी काळजी आसता, तशी गोंयची काळजी करपी तितली अपुरबाय आपल्या मनशांची आमी जशी अपुरबाय करता तशी गोंयची अपुरबाय करपी, गोंय म्हजो भांगराचो कुडको ताचे वयल्यान जीव ओवाळचो अशें म्हणून गोंयचेर जीव ओवाळून उडोवपी एक पॅनल म्हाका मेळ्ळें आसा. आय एम व्हेरी व्हेरी प्रिविलेज टू टॉक टू देम. थँक यू सो मच फॉर बीइंग हियर. तुम्ही आता हे ल्हानशी जी खावटे ही डॉक्युमेंटरी पळयली. This is just a curtain raiser kind of a thing. Just a cursory glance. खजनाचेर हुस्कोय उगडावपी तशेंच to introduce the system. So हांव दिवाळेचे. So खजनाच्या आंगा खांद्यार खेळून जशी एल्सा बायन म्हणला तशें खजनाच्या आंगा खांद्यार खेळून व्हडली जाल्ली आमी. But we have never realized this. I can see some of my Diwar persons from Diwar here. So खजनाच्या आंगा खांद्यार बांदार खेळून जाल्ली म्हणचे आमी. But we have never realized that it is something which is a man-made thing, a man-made wonder. Our ancestors made this wonder. So it was never realized kind of. It was just taken as a part of a mountain or a river. And but आता घाळ रावून जावचें ना. The documentary has posed so many significant worries and concerns with climate change, with global warming. घाळ रावून जावचें ना is what we are all aware of. So somewhere, some discussions, deliberations, this is just in the sense, just a concern raiser kind of a thing is what we would try. We have to think of it as. So from that perspective, the panel is going to talk about the past, the present and the future of the Khazan system. So म्हजो पयलो प्रश्न एल्सा बायका. डॉक्युमेंटेशनान 4th century तशेंच 6th century खजनाचो उल्लेख आसा. तर राजांनी ही खजनाची लँड दुसऱ्या एका मनशाक काडून दुसऱ्याक, दॅट मिन्स ऑलमोस्ट some 1500 1600 years ago kind of. So then actually what is the time? जर खजन 4th century एका हातांच्यान दुसऱ्या हातान दिली, that means by that time the systems were already in place, in use, and were benefiting people. So in that case, what exactly is the timeline of the Khazan systems and how were they managed?
To take you back to the timeline, I will want to make a reference of a lot of reading material which is available of Dr. Sangeeta Sonak in this regard. And in fact, she was supposed to be one of our panelists. Yuji actually, but because of some reason she could not make it, she is out of station. But from all that I have read, from all that I know, from all that I have gained, I can take you back to a time when the people, the indigenous people of Goa, food was a necessity. So जेवणा खाणाच्यो वस्तू ना जाल्यार मनशान रावपाक जायना, जगपाक जायना. आनी ह्यो जेवणा खाणाच्यो वस्तू दोंगरा वयल्यान एकठांय पुंजावपाचो जो फूड गॅदरींग कॉन्सेप्ट आशिल्लो पळय, तो कॉन्सेप्ट फूड ग्रोईंग जालो. आनी तो रेकॉर्ड 8000 BC मेळटा की फूड ग्रोईंग कॉन्सेप्ट जालो. सो ज्यो इंडिजिनस कम्युनिटी आशिल्ल्यो, गावडा ट्रायब्स आशिल्ले, ते तेन्ना आशिल्ले. सो थंयच्यान तर आमी सुरवात केली. इफ वी स्टार्ट फ्रॉम दॅट पॉयंट, that the origin and then the making and then the making and then, as you pointed out, we have a record of Boja King, a copper plate of 6th century. That's a record, but we don't have record. And even today, if you see, Khazans are systems which are in the lifestyle of people. We ourselves are the record. Like what my parents told is my record. What their parents told them is their record. It's more like a traditional knowledge kind of record. But yes, the footprints that we have, like the Boja copper plate, is one footprint of 6th century. But if we go back, we may not have records, but we know that the system changed. And in Goa, without Khazan, there cannot be food growing. It will be a lacune there. So I think that kind of sets the timeline and the kind of records that we look at, fact checking. Today, we all know what it is. Yeah, if that answers your question. Thank you.
Thank you. When we speak of Khazans, it's some 18,000 hectares of land is what we look at. That was, basically, it is arguably the largest man-made structure in Goa, and not done by so-called tech-savviers, but by the so-called backward ancestors of ours. And then, but still, we are not able to manage that system. We are trying, instead of taking it to the next level, we are taking it to the back level kind of a thing. Are there Khazna Budaita, Khazna Puraita? Are there and then as per the state legislative assemblies LAQ, फक्त 4000 square meter of hectares of land is under cultivation अशें म्हणटा आनी बाकीचे बुडयल्या म्हणटा. So are there specific, my question is to Dr. Claude, are there specific legal kind of systems in place to protect Khazan lands per se? अशें कितें आसा काय म्हणून?
The Khazans are protected in several ways by law. In 2011, for the first time they got protected in the coastal regulations of that is 2011 notification. They became no development zones, which you could not do anything in Khazan areas after 2011 as per the CRZ notification, which is the central notification issued under the Environment Protection Act. But in 2006, 2007, when the regional plan was being prepared, in the regional plan 2021 also, Khazans are protected as no-development zones. So if you look at the regional plan as a whole, wherever you see the word K marked in any field, that would be a Khazan field as per the regional plan. So you will not be able to get a conversion of that plot to any non-Khazan use or non-agricultural use. These two are very powerful instruments, legal instruments, which it's very difficult to get approvals contrary to these two legal instruments. But another more important legal instrument is the Agricultural Tenancy Act. Now, the Agricultural Tenancy Act came into force in 1964, and in 1976, the Land Tiller Act came in as an amendment to the Tenancy Act. And then the 1976 amendment was challenged in the Supreme Court. That took the Supreme Court up to 1990 to resolve the issue. And it is only with the resolution of that issue that the Goa Land Use Act of 1991 was passed by the local assembly, because the Supreme Court found that many of the tenants had got the land under tenancy but were now reselling it for purposes that have got nothing to do with agriculture. So they said that this is not permissible. So the Goa government agreed to bring in a legislation that would protect tenanted lands, and that was the Goa Land Use Act of 1991, which explicitly protects all tenanted lands from being converted to from agriculture to non-agriculture. And it's such a strident act, the 1991 Act. So few people recognize this. The 1991 Act actually places tenanted land outside the purview of the Town and Country Planning Department Act. The 1974 Act does not apply. It's a very unique case. The 1974 Act, which is an act that applies to the whole state of Goa, cannot apply to the agricultural lands which are being deemed to be tenanted lands under the Agricultural Tenancy Act. Now, all the lands in the Khazans all came under agricultural tenancy. And that is why you have agricultural tenants associations in all the Khazan areas. And that's very much intimately related to the fact that the management system passed over from the original associations to these associations. And that's when a lot of deterioration has started. But in my mind, there are these 3 or 4 acts which are very powerful. You don't need Supreme Court, Prime Minister Modi or anybody to deal with Khazan protection. The regional plan is very good. The land use is the most powerful act that you get in any state. And therefore, the Town and Country Planning Act, if it gives protection to Khazans, it is perfectly alright, and you can enforce it. The same thing with the Agricultural Tenancy Act, Goa Land Use Act 1991. Again, all the lands which come under tenancy in the Khazan are all protected. They cannot be converted to anything else. And under the CRZ notification, you cannot touch CRZ. Of course, this is under the 2011 notification. That has been superseded by the 2019 notification. And there's the Khazans are not protected under the 1991 notification. They have been removed from protection. We have challenged that before the NGT, and that matter is posted for hearing one of these days. And we hopefully will get an order restoring the Khazan protection in the CRZ.
Thank you, sir. And so 17, section 17 cannot touch the Khazans.
17.2 has got guidelines. In the guidelines, you cannot convert Khazan land, you cannot convert Kala land, you cannot convert paddy lands. But you are dealing with Mr. Vishwajit Rani, so law doesn't apply to him. So I've seen the 17.2 files. He passed a very draconian order as a minister saying that no files will be given to any parties asking for 17.2 files. So we knew that we were going to go to court. So just yesterday they released 30 files. And in all the 30 files, the interesting thing is neither the town planning department nor the secretary to town and country planning have given their opinion yes to any of the conversion of those plots under 17.2. All the permissions, all the actual signatures are only of Mr. Hari.
See, in the documentary, Mr. Ramarao Wagh is on a bridge. He's standing on a bridge and he's speaking of mangroves behind him. So we, in fact, I visited him once in Neura and he said, let me show you a surprise. And I have a bridge here in my village which goes to nowhere. And I was surprised. So I want him to share the story. I want him to share the story which has a direct link to the deterioration of Khazans and direct link to the title of my documentary, Kavtem, which of Kabir's documentary, Kavtem. Kavtem means a bridge. And this is a typical example. What Mr. Ramarao Wagh would share with you is a bridge in the system, Kavtem in the system itself.
Thank you, Sangeeta. First of all, let me thank for having such a wonderful film, especially Kabir. As Sangeeta said, that where I'm narrating some of the issues about Khazan, although that bridge is not completely shown there, probably that could be another movie or another documentary later. And what we call as a bridge to nowhere is now actually going somewhere. Now what has happened is probably somewhere around 2008. Now, as you know, I'm from Azusi, Mandur, Nevra. Paul is also from the same village. We have some of the biggest Khazan tracts in Goa, right from ranging from Agasaim Bridge, which you see, up to the Karambolim, and then it goes beyond Dauji and other things. Now there are so many Khazans as Komundats are owning it, Karambolim and Nevra Ogran Komundats are actually the owners, and then there are tenants. So the fields, like what I was talking, that we have to walk for around 30 minutes to go to our fields earlier, Khazan fields. That is in Karambolim Komundad, and from my village Dongri, earlier there was a stream and you have to cross using tar, these small boats. Later on there was another small footbridge was built by the association with the help of government. That also crumbled because of salinity. Then suddenly an idea came to the then MLA, and he said farmers had demanded a bigger bridge. So through JSIDC, something around 8 crore worth bridge was planned. I won't say it was planned, but it was mismanaged. And they started building the bridge. And surprisingly, what they did is they built the spans and the actual bridge, but there was no approach road from both the sides. So earlier it was a hanging. You could not even go there on top. It was completed in around 4 years by spending 8 crores, and there was no provision for having approach roads from both the sides, from the village to that bridge, and then from the bridge down to the fields. Now what happened is, when this thing was started, the construction, unfortunately at the same time the destruction of Khazan fields have begun. By that time people have almost left the cultivation, and the fishing mafia has taken over, and major breaches like Kavtem, which she was talking about. And you cannot imagine, earlier in my childhood we have seen Kavtem or bow or whatever at a smaller scale. These Kavtem, they are not actually no longer Kavtem as such. It is a big, like say, beach, and it is almost sometimes 100 and 200 meters long on the Kumbarjoa canal, which connects Zuari and Mandavi, because our fields are settled on that stretch. And it was a very strong burn earlier. So most of the places that burned is now not there. It is non-existing. Once, along with Mamladar of Tiswadi as a part of Khazan Action Committee, we took a round from Old Goa Jetty up to Agasaim by a boat, and we inspected entire burn. And then we have seen all, because right now we can't go there through our fields. We took this waterways right from Kumbarjoa, and we have seen everything. So by that time, mangroves have come up in the fields. You can't even make out that those are fields. And the question was for whom we are building this bridge. Other was this systemic failure where approach road was not built. So it became that time election issue, and a lot of questions were raised on development or priorities. And later on, again after one term which was missed by the then MLA Mr. Silvera, when he came back again in the 2017 election, he again he wanted to complete that bridge. So they started building it. So right now the approach from village to that was ready, but we have been persistently asking now when fields are not there, they are destroyed. You can't even step because it's actually now hovering right exactly above mangroves, and you don't know where to actually take it down and where it will go later on, because if you take it as a road afterwards, it can go even up to Kundai and Madkai by having a bridge over there. But to go to fields, there are no farmers. Farming is right now stopped there, which we are trying to revive, and it is not possible. So problem is this type of development models where somebody thinks, because he was a vice chairman at that time of JSITC, he thought of this, he took some permission from captain of ports and CRZ. And CRZ, I have read the entire document, I have taken RTIs of this, and I've seen, in fact, they have clearly said that even if you are cutting mangroves, you have to take permission. But there is no report of how many mangroves were cut at all. And now, it is at a stage, because I go there regularly, I have some photographs, it is at a stage where it was now supposed to touch the ground. But after that, what you will do? So I express the fear that once you do it, anti-social elements and others will just use that bridge to go towards this side. First of all, Khazans have become dumping grounds. They are now being used for many illegal activities and garbage, all this. Plus, some other anti-social elements can do anything over there, including it could be a murder also. So, unless we repair these bonds, and for which surprisingly, like last night I was going through these LEQs which we had asked, we got these details, just to build those burns which I said they were destroyed. Now last 6-7 years we are fighting for that. We have been visiting soil conservation department, revenue department, tribal department to get it done through tribal. Again and again the tenders are floated or permissions are asked, and in the agricultural departments, like say notes, nowhere they write that Khazans are destroyed, fields are destroyed, we have to build these bunds. They just say that bund has to be constructed, and it is whether it is urgent, whether it's priority, nothing is mentioned there. And then one particular department somewhere will say, by the time the file reaches them, they will say, now it is fag end of the financial year, so this project can be submitted later. Now again that process starts. So we have these documents with us, and I think you should also look at a lot of this data which is available through LAQs, because otherwise we don't get data like Claude Bob said, RTIs also you don't get much. But through LAQs at least we have, with the help of many of these MLAs, we have got a lot of data. It's available on the Legislative Assembly website. You can also download, including sluice gate auctions. Crores of rupees are actually at stake during sluice gate auctions, and that is the only primary thing now which is going on in Khazan fields, and which is actually has led to the corruption and destruction of this. And that money doesn't go to government treasury, and it is all in cash transactions, which are actually serious things, and nobody is talking about it. So I may talk about it later, but this is the story, and this is how what we need is not being given to us. What we don't need is actually given. So this is, in fact, the root cause of all these issues.
Thank you, Ram. Now, as you rightly pointed out, some last 15 days itself, there was a DPR prepared of some 305 crores for Khazan, and then in fact last month I saw two tenders, 7 crore and 15 crore each for repair of bunds. So if this kind of money gets pumped in,
regarding these DPRs, again, I saw through LEQs, some company in Mumbai, I don't know which is that company. In fact, that is, I think, some style developed by central government that some consultant has to be appointed to the departments. They prepare DPR. Now there are two. One is this example which I'm saying about this some Darashaw or some company. They have prepared some 10-15 DPR. Out of these, 2 are related to Khazan. This was much before. Now this is a new DPR. They are talking about rejuvenation, reconstruction, especially our Ajosi Mandur ponds and Karamboli ponds. And I have gone through that. There is nothing, hardly anything which they have not understood what is the real problem. And yeah. And second is another soil policy which I would like to mention later, maybe when there is a time, which was signed by government.
Yeah, Dr. Pradeep Sharma Mukadam is with us. He is the member secretary of Goa State Biodiversity Board. Welcome you, sir. Yes, coming to Mr. Paul. Paul has been aggressively covering environmental issues and grassroots level issues at large, actually. So in the process, he has done stories about on impact of this entire deterioration of the Khazans on farmers. So I want Paul to share his experiences in terms of what are the impacts on. Yes, of course, please. Please, yeah, sure enough.
I just made a few points. The impact of degradation of Khazans has been very severe on farmers in coastal belt. At one stage, before the bunds started collapsing, many farmers were growing their fields. When the bunds were breached, they still continued very bravely, but the flooding and related problems started getting worse. This was when the auction of sluice gates started fetching more money and revenue to tenants' association. Progressively over the years, there was quantum jump in auction amounts and sluice gate operators resorted to netting more fish while the width of the breaches increased. Fish became more important than food. One can understand why major breaches remain unrepaired. But the authorities have not realized that by allowing the bunds to be unrepaired, the food security is being destroyed. Farming will be difficult to revive in some parts as the areas of permanent waterlogging have increased, and on the other hand, due to fields being left fallow, mangroves have grown very extensively. To clear these mangroves, it is a very mammoth task. Due to permanent nature of the flooding, the fertile soil has been destroyed by salinity and our food security is at stake. Then, regarding the present state of Khazans, on one hand there is saline water influx due to breach bunds, while on the other hand there is massive reclamation of Khazan lands that is happening due to lack of action by authorities to complaints. Expansion of highways is being done haphazardly, burying waterways and creating bigger mud embankments. Hutments and buildings, even built by the government, have come up, and the government is planning more development of a similar type, especially in the Mrs. Khazan. Paddy fields and even water bodies in Khazan land have been filled up for a bus terminal, buildings and other infrastructure at Pato, and there has been massive displacement of water. This is more in Tiswadi perhaps, which is the most vulnerable taluka into the flooding problem in Goa. The areas of waterlogging are increasing and they remain permanently flooded. Between Mercedes, Santa Cruz, Talegaon and KTC bus stand Panjim, a vast area, maybe as big as entire Mercedes village, has been permanently submerged for several years. In the eastern part of Tiswadi that comprises Santandre and Kumbajua constituencies, perhaps the state's biggest Khazan, from Agasa in the south to Korli and Gandauni in northern areas, covers roughly 2,000 hectares, but a large parcel of Khazan land is permanently submerged, I think, since the last 30 years. One can see it from Kundai Plateau, and it is obvious that Kumbaja Canal and Zuari River have entered the Khazan land in a big way. This is because three major bands, Ofla, Domzo and Kavtem, along Kumbaja Canal have been left unrepaired for about 20 years. Even internal bands have become weak due to a strong tidal action. In Nagasai Kolni belt, there is less of reclamation, but flooding is more due to bridge bands, which helps the sluice gate operators. The situation in other Khazan areas of Goa is on similar lines. With extreme weather events already creating such havoc, the government has hardly any time to wake up. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Paul, for this concise report kind of a thing on the state of affairs. Dr. Salmukadan, Khazan's has over the years, over those 3,500 years, a unique kind of a biodiversity has come up in the Khazan system as such. The environment, the Khazan environment is a unique kind of in the world. So the deterioration of these Khazan systems, what is the impact on the biodiversity of the deterioration on the biodiversity, this unique biodiversity?
Could I add one more question?
Yes, please, sir. Please.
No. How do you define Khazan? Would they come under the definition of wetlands?
Yes. Very interesting questions. I have a deep respect for the dais, the people present here, and also the people in the audience. There is no doubt that Khazan is one of the most ecologically rich biodiversity, because what we see, whether it is clams, mollusks, and other species, is what is visible for us. But I think what is not visible for us, like the strains of bacteria that exist around 12 to 24, which have been already explored and are economically important. Some of them which can produce the best fish feed, and some of them which can produce the best compost for the paddy. These are already explored, these are already proven, tested, and they are there at the University of Goa. Only thing we have not been able to connect it with the livelihood and actually get out of it, because if a salt pan contains so much valuable biodiversity which is invisible, I'm talking about the bacterial diversity, we are yet to explore more biodiversity in the Khazan. We are only talking about certain biodiversity which we know, whether it is crabs, whether it is, there is no doubt that over a period of time, and by definition of UNESCO, it is definitely a wetland. There is no doubt whether it is wetland or not. Not only Khazans, as per the definition of UNESCO, even rivers are wetlands. But when it comes to the rules of 2010 or 2017 rules of wetland conservation and management rules, these things were kept out. There may be some thought process behind it, because whenever anything that comes under the purview of the rules and the authorities, when people have to take the permission from the authorities for plowing their boats or taking away their canoes, perhaps that's why rivers are removed. That was for the convenient purpose of administration. But we find sometimes that the purpose of administration, when we frame the rules, and those of you who have worked in the rule framing committee, as Dr. Cloud sir was also part of the task force which we worked together, when it comes to take a decision, the general thought is, when you make the rules, it should not cause inconvenience. Now we are notifying wetlands, 15 wetlands have been notified, another 19-20 wetlands are gone for draft notification. At least 35-40 will be notified, but for each wetland that we are notifying, many places we have a great welcome, like whether it was Bonwall, where the people wanted us to notify in a big way, including Arturo. It was a struggle, and many times it was a frustrating situation that whether this will be notified or not, because there were many intellectuals were even opposing that. So point is notification, because there is always another way of creating confusion that when somebody notifies this wetland, government will take away the land, because there is a deficit of credentials, which I fully agree. That why this all happens, because of this deficit of credentials, trust between the people and between the government authorities. This we have to accept it. But at the same time, I feel the root cause, whether it is a wetland or whether it is a Khazan is a wetland or not, I have answered. Whether there is biodiversity, you all know there is no other rich system than the Khazans, because of two reasons, I would say. One is because it is an interface between the soil and the water and the salinity. Presence of these three factors, if you look at it, the estuarine ecosystems are believed to be one of the most productive ecosystems after corals, if you have to see. And if something that meets estuarine ecosystem with the first fragile marsh ecosystem, it is a Khazan. So if you look at Khazan, it is not just an ecosystem. I would say it is a combination of various ecosystems, because, and what is affecting is the change in salinity. If there is something which is more saline because of temperature rise or climate change, Dr. Lalita must have spoken to you, it is creating increase in salinity. And some places where we have the dams being built and the Tilari water coming in, you find that the same mussel culture which we were able to grow in the Chapura river, you cannot make mussel culture in the same spot because the salinity has reduced because of influx of water. So this human interference, which I would talk to, we always talk about development versus sustainability. Most of people here are sustainability. Maybe people outside here, maybe most of pro-development. So striking a balance is something, and I would agree that striking balance is not easy, because when it comes to economy, the people do not think of ecology. When it comes to ecology, we should also respect the sustainable ecological models that we already had. And I would lastly end with the statement of this particular question is, replacement of community systems with government systems do not work. Because I would like to make statements, this biodiversity, if it has been conserved by anybody, it has been conserved by our ancestors, our tribals, our people can conserve biodiversity. I do not think any government can conserve biodiversity, and that is why the model of having autonomous bodies in every state, whether it is Goa Biodiversity Board, Goa Wetland Authority, these are the autonomous bodies, Goa State Pollution Control Board. And the best part of our Biodiversity Act is, although it is a very small act which does not have powers to stop any major development projects or all those things, the best part of this act is we are present in every village to have a creative platform like Biodiversity Management Committee, which I personally believe, when I was in the industry in the past, I never thought such thing was there. And after becoming part of the government system, which I am there for the last 8 years, I am trying to do something on my own. I find that this network of biodiversity committees, which is actually proving to be very useful for the conservation, silent conservation, very, very thoughtful conservation, and many of them, they are doing good work. And I'm very happy to say that some people, like whether it is Nelson Bab coming in Aldona, whether it is Govind Shirodkar, who first met me for notification of Toyar Lake, whether it is Arturo who came for Bonwal Lake, they are BMC chairpersons. Not only that, there is Satan sitting there, who the first branding of Kurturim rice was done through him. So some small steps we are trying to take. This is a very creative, silent, small platform which has been created. Khazan preservation is a bigger task, I feel, and for that the discussion can go on. Thank you.
Yes, as you rightly pointed out, Khazan, wholehearted community involvement, the pure replacement of the government systems is not going to work. As one farmer pointed out to me once, like in the earlier days, they used to take walks on the bunds, and even एक कुल्लेन जर वेळ केल्ले आसत आनी मातशे ते व्हडले दिसत जाल्यार also that was noted and taken care of just before it could stitch in time saves 9 तशें करून, and that's how the systems were maintained with wholehearted involvement of the community. When we asked Kabir, as a youngster, instead of doing something contemporary or something specific to your age kind of a thing, what made you interested in Khazans? We have a video message from him. Okay. 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 Kabir's questions will take at the end. So, I can just take 1 or 2 questions before we go to the next round of questioning to the panelists. Just 2 questions I can take. Lester?
Do we have a mic? Jack, do we have a mic?
I think I'm loud enough.
Or you can come here, Mr. Lester.
I can speak from here, not a problem.
No, the crowd, the public can see.
Okay, I just wanted to know one thing. Now we have these committees that are supposed to, the Khazan tenant committee that are supposed to take care of the barns and whatever, the manos and everything. But like in my village where I have done a lot of farming in the Khazans, nothing takes place now anymore. And I feel this system of going to the Mamladar and all, it doesn't work. Something else has to be done, otherwise the Khazans are going to go. All land developers are waiting just to take hold of that land and convert it. So this system of going to the Mamladar and getting it passed to them and all is not going to work. And I've seen it everywhere, like you're saying, Kavtem, nearly everywhere. It's being done on purpose, it's being breached on purpose, and some places even now they are building new barns. They are using mud from the hills. There are all weeds falling on. There are weeds forming. Previously, I think our barns were being built from the chikhol in the fields, from the sea, from the water bodies around. And it is a mess actually. We are just talking about Khazan. Once this meeting is over, it's going to go and it's going to remain the same. Is there anybody willing to take it up? Maybe we can take up a village. We can take up a full village and we can just restart this whole program. Maybe even if the government is not giving funds, we could put our own funds and start it. We have done more than, I think in 2019 we did about 10 lakh square meters of land in my village of Sandisdev. Can we take it up in some village? I'm sure a lot of people are willing to put some funds. Can we take up this model village and just do it on a large scale? Show the entire village that can be done. I've got some knowledge in working on the Khazan, so if anybody is willing, maybe there are a lot of esteemed personnel on the dais whose help we can take. And we are just talking, we come, there are so many meetings. Tomorrow I think there's one more screening of some Khazan something. We are just talking, but nothing seems to be happening.
Yes, Mr. Lester, the concerns raised by you are very
I'm talking on a practical viewpoint. We have a lot of these meetings and all, but from the practical viewpoint, in fact in Sandisdev, nobody came forward to repair a bund. I put 1 lakh of my own money and I repaired a manas. Otherwise, I think about 4 or 5 lakh square meters would have been flooded because the manas had breached. So,
yes.
Is there people who are willing to come? We could make under this of the leadership of the Khazan Society of Goa, maybe we could take up one village and show that it can be done. We'll require a lot of funds because everything has to be redone. There are manases that are not working properly, there are bunds that are Kavtem banda. So we have to just see. Yes. I don't know, maybe, but it's okay that we have this meeting because it builds some awareness, but I don't know in the long term whether this actually works or no. I'm talking from a practical, I'm basically an agriculturist nowadays. So from an agriculture viewpoint, I don't know how it works.
Before taking the next question, Mr. Ramarao wants to make
yes,
a brief.
Thank you, Nestor. In fact, he is a shining example in this. In fact, 2 years back, we had also had an interaction with him in our village to start something like what they have done. Now, the issue of this tenant association, see, problem is like what I was also talking about is this systemic problem. I'll just give you an example of Nevrao Grand Komunda, where almost for the Khazan Field Tenant Association, there were more than 900 members on the list when it began.
Today, if we see, there are only 28 voting members, and that is one of the root cause where these people, then they can either break into two groups or one particular group, and then they take over the management. These tenant associations, they become party to the sluice gate contractors. Although rules are there where only a farmer has to be a sluice gate contractor, but then that is somehow overlooked. Someone else is made a sleeping partner and he does it. Today there are examples where a completely non-Goan is a sluice gate contractor in majority of the Santandre and Kumbarjua sluice gates. And if you see, they are not only they, but the farmers and all other tenants are responsible for this. Now we suggested, in fact, this Khazan Action Committee which we were heading was formed precisely because there was a breach, man-made breach on a sluice gate and bund, and we complained it. We took it to the CM, the then CM Manohar Parrikar, and that time, rather also along with taking all these legal actions, we suggested that reforms have to be made in the Agricultural Tenancy Act and how these tenants, the addition of new tenants into the system has to be done. It is a slow process. So the democratic process is now submerged. People cannot even, although there are families of the original tenant, their names have not been added to the tenancy register. Every year they just do a mock exercise of some form 3 to be updated, but nobody is eligible. Tenancy cases are pending. So if that system was effective, but right now it has been rendered ineffective because of these issues. Now the other model, suppose if tenancy is, tenant associations are not effective, other model, as Nestor has said, is community farming, contract farming. We have to look into, as he said, we fully agree that some villages have to be taken as a pilot, and they have already shown the way. But this has to be done, and I think for this, government also has to come forward, Komundats and all these other organs have to come forward. Somewhere we have to sit together, probably through, right now there is this agricultural policy discussions are going on. I have also made some of these same suggestions in the agricultural policy when they invited the suggestion. So I think a larger discussion has to take place, and like over there in Sandestev, I think a lot of people agreed, they came forward. Problem in many other villages are everybody is having greed, and that, as Mahatma Gandhi has said, nature provides for everybody's need, but not for greed. But the main problem with Khazan destruction is greed, and as Paul also pointed out, it is all this fishing and other aspects which have overtaken the farming aspect. So this has to be, I think, at a social community level, government level, and at civic level has to be discussed, and I think this has to be taken. Otherwise, there will be so many meetings, yes, but I think somewhere it has to begin, and it has already begun, but it has to be adopted.
Before you take the next question, I'll just mention a few things. Yeah, I think some of the members are interested in question, but I'll mention just 2-3 points about what Nestor said. Yes, Khazan society is willing to be any kind of platform, and I purely understand your concern to take this whole process to the next level. The next level is the action plan. Yeah, I fully understand the urgency of that. Yes, we are available. I would also put across to you that that Khazans are community systems. So therefore, we can't look at government in terms of in an isolation. No, we have to be party to this, and therefore there needs to be that little gap which has to be covered before ground action can take place. Yeah, and that gap is the collaboration, the understanding, the planning, action plan. That's the gap which we have to fill before we get into the next stage. If we don't do that, then we would have messed up things much more than what it is right now. Okay, that is my opinion. The third part is, in this regard of putting things collectively in place as an action plan, there is something called as a green skilling committee. It is under the Goa State Biodiversity Board, in which, in fact, I also am a member. But in this green skilling context, it would be great to have collective minds, because as Nestor said, if you just bring mud from somewhere and make the bun, which sometimes we see today, then we are losing that traditional knowledge, we are losing that traditional design. So it boils down to design, it boils down to specification, it boils down to techniques, it boils down to biodiversity. So there are these lot of issues which have to occur to us in this execution plan. So it's not just about just taking care of a breach of a bun. There is this gap which needs to be covered, and all of us, including you, needs to be part of this. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. The breach, the Azusi Mandur breach, which you saw, which was being repaired, okay, exactly 1.5 months after that, it got washed away. So, another tender.
In the document you must have seen one bund which was being constructed. Actually, that was a wrong method, and they were just using some soil and rubble. Within 1 month, it washed away. It was also reported by Paul and others. And after that, we followed it up. Now, again, a new tender has come up for 90 lakhs to build it. That time, it was 12 lakhs. And this is how actually money is wasted. In Nevra, which I am giving again an example, 9.25 crore was spent to build a bund of 5 kilometers. It was completed in 2-3 years, but it was of concrete. And now, if you see, even after that, out of all these 800 farmers, only 9, this year I think only 12 people are cultivating paddy. It is all lying fallow. And surprisingly, most of those sluice gates which were built along with these bunds through that 9.25 crores, all of them have damaged. 2 or 3 sluice gates as of now are actually, there is nothing to call a sluice gate over there, they are open.
Advocate Shubhankar. Yeah.
जे पॅनल आसा तांकां सगळ्यांक नमस्कार. सर क्लाउड सर मुकदम सर पावल सगळे. हे खरें म्हटल्यार आमच्या गोंयांत आसा तें वरदान आसा. म्हाका दिसता हे सगळे व्यक्ती आसा म्हणून आमी आयज गोंयांत कितें तरी पळोवपाक शकता. म्हजी एकूच विनंती आसा की एसोसिएशन फॉर्म केलें. म्हाका दिसता रूट लेवलाक जर गेले जर आमी ग्राउंड लेवलाक, जे आमचे शेतकार आसा, शेतकार जे खाजन शेतीन माहीर आशिल्ले, फॉर एक्झाम्पल म्हजो बापूय खावटे पडले म्हटल्या बरोबर हे सगळे आमचे ते शेतकार आसा ते एकठांय जाताले, राती कडेन वताले, ते सुकती आसा भरती आसा ते केन्नाय आसा ते करताले आनी सांगून वताले आमी खावटे बांदपाक वता, गरम उदक आनी ते वतत आसताले. कारण कितें, खावटे बांदतना जर्मा म्हणून लागताली, जर्मा, आनी ती इतकी पेनफूल आसताली म्हणजे ती कळ सोंसपाक जायनासली. म्हणजे ती कळ घेवन हे बांदल्या नंतर, खावटे बांदल्या नंतर अशे घरा ते सामके रडत येताले. हांवें पळयलां म्हज्या भुरगेपणांत. म्हाका सांगपाचें इतकेंच आसा, पावल सरान हांगासर आमच्या तिसवाडीचो बरे तरेन तुमी तो नियाळ केलो. पूण सर, चिंबलाय खाजन शेती आसा आनी आमी जे भोगता पळय काय न्ही आतां, हे खाजन हेका लागून, ह्या खावट्यांक लागून आमी सोंपलाच. पूण त्याच बरोबर आमी सगळे इतके पणजेक अर्बन ही आमची हें आसा, एका जवळ आसून सुद्दां चिंबला इंदिरानगर म्हणून जे पळय कितें आसा, तिची कितकी सिवेज आसा, ती एक खाजन शेतीन वचून ही मांडवी नदीन वता सिवेज सगळी. बाकीच्या ती वताच, कित्याक सगळ्यांनी फोसा हे ते मारून सगळे आमचे वाट लावन उडयलाच. तिचेरूय कांय थोडेफार आमी म्हणजे मिक्सअप जाल्ले आसा. सो म्हजी विनंती इतकीच आसा की जे कोण आमचे पारंपारीक शेतकरी आसा, आमी सगळे एलायट जे सगळे आसा, तेंचेच असोसिएशन असले म्हणून जायना. सो तांकांय आमी कॉन्फिडन्सान घेवपाक जाय. हे जर आमी सगळे जर करपाक जर वतले, रिपेअर जर करपाक जर वतले जर जायत, त्यांची जी टॅक्नीक आसा जी आमचे कडेन ना, तें सांगता तुमकां. आमी उलयतले, रिसर्च करतले, हे सगळे उलयतले आमी, पूण जी टॅक्नीक तेंचे कडेन आसा, म्हणजे खावटे भरल्या नंतर तण व्हरप, तण्यान ती माती घालप, गुटलप आनी ते भरून काडप, हांवें पळयलां म्हज्या दोळ्यांनी ते कशें काम करता. सो आतां जे तुमी ज्यो सगळे कोटीच्यो गोश्टी पळय उलयता पळय काय न्ही, तांकां कोटी लागनाशिल्ले, कोटी लागनाशिल्ले तांकां. तो चिखल खंयचो काडप आनी खंय कशें करप स्वता करताले ते. सो हे मातशें थोडेशें आमी लक्षात घेवपाक जाय. म्हणजे इतकेंच सजेशन आसा. जाल्यार हे आमी कितें एसोसिएशन फॉर्म केल्लें आसा, तेचो उपयोग जो आसा हे खाजन हे करपा खातीर, खाजन शेती प्रिजर्व करपा खातीर आमकां उपयोगाक पडटली. देव बरें करूं.
Just I will mention, yesterday was the last date to submit suggestions for agricultural policy of Goa. आणि तितू भितर जे आमच्या शिरोडकर बाबान, गोविंद बाबान उलयलें, ते सगळे सजेशन म्हणून आमकां दिवंक जातालें. And I expect that many of you might have given these suggestions, because traditional knowledge जे उलयले ते, सर्विसीस ऑफ खाजन जे उलयले ते, हे खूबशें आमी एक्चुअली फॉर पॉस्टेरिटी सेक डॉक्युमेंटेशन जावपाक जाय, ताजे मॅपिंग जावपाक जाय, ताजो रेकॉर्ड्स जनरेट जावपाक जाय, ताजे व्हॅल्युएशन जावपाक जाय. हे आमी पॉलिसीन बरयना जाल्यार आमी खंय बरयतली?
We have submitted it.
So, yeah, and also Khazan Society has submitted it. So just to highlight that we have multiple opportunities. So let's utilize them and create some win-win situation for everybody. Thank you.
Mr. Arthur, एक प्रश्न तुमचे कडल्यान आणि one question from the gentleman in blue, and then we'll go to the next round, and then we'll take more questions. Is that okay? Mr. Arthur.
Come, take.
Answer, not a question, request.
Take a moment.
हांव दिवाळेचो गोंयची गांवचो गांवकार, हांवें म्हज्या भुरग्यापणांत बाग आनी शेतां आनी खाजनां पयल्यार जी गोल्डन एज म्हणटा पळय तशी, आनी तेन्ना पळय कशें सांबाळटाले बेसीक सिंपल मेथड्स. तांचो बोस आसतालो आनी बोस आहा पळय तो सगळें करतालो. तुवें म्हणलां पळय तशें, तूं ते बारीक बुराक म्हणटा पळय ताका बोव म्हणटा. बोव पडलो की तेच राती तो बोव बंद करप. ते तांचे ट्रेडिशनानूच आसलें. रॉकेट सायन्स बी कांय नाका आसली तरी. म्हणटकच आमच्या बाबान सांगलां की एक मॉडल विलेज, आमची विलेज मॉडल विलेज करपाक म्हाका दिसता वूड बी अ वेरी नायस थिंग. कित्याक आमचो आख्खोच गांव विदाउट अ बांद वी हॅव नो गांव. वी हॅव गॉट अबाउट 30 kilometers of bound around us. So my request is that if you at all take a model village, please consider Diwali. Thank you.
That's very nice. So we start with the, we start with एकच घेऊया आणि मग
Please, thank you very much.
Again another Diwadkar speaking.
Yes, my name is Prasad Tarmalkar. I'm from Diwar, and it's nice to see a hope for a farmer. Believe me, in the form of Khazan Society of India. The gentlemen all sitting over here, I know most of them, they work with their heart, not just with their brains, I would say, because the subject Khazan or farmer or a community is in their heart. I'm from Diwar. I've been fighting this cause since 2012. I was a sarpanch in Diwar from 2012 to 2017, and I had this opportunity to meet the Parikars and the other CMs of Goa, and it was just, the carrot was just kept in front of all the farmers first. And I would like to take this opportunity to thank our Parsekar sir, who was the CM, because he worked a wonderful thing for our village, Divar. Divar, the modus operandi of this, as we all discussed about the Manchekars and the Tenants Association, modus operandi was let the Shatkar grow his field. When the crop comes up, break the buds, get the water inside, and kill the farmer. How long will the farmer survive? 2 years, 3 years? I just want to ask a simple question. How many of us are Khazan farmers sitting over here? Can somebody raise their hand? Nestor, growing fields, 3. We also talked about communities. Who are the communities depending on this Khazan lands? It's not necessarily the farmer. There is also the fishermen. The local fishermen, as some people said, they आपली हालीपोड रातचे हे करता पळय. Secondly, toddy tappers. Not talking about those people at all. They just vanished from the scene. Today, it was sad to hear one day when we were talking about the CRZ, Sir Claude would throw Bolagan, that all of a sudden a notification has come to say that our rivers are not fish breeding areas. It was by the fisheries department. The officers from the fisheries department came out and no, there's no fish breeding happening. So believe me, myself, friend Rocky, we went to the ICR, and those people did a study, and we identified that there are 128 species of fish which are breeding in our Mandari river. It is sad that the government doesn't know, and it's simply keeping a fisheries department which is totally a waste of money and time for people. In fact, taxpayers' money. I've filed in a petition, I'm just telling you, because the thing is that we are all talking about is the rules and laws. I'll tell you, put them in a box and throw them into Mangalore. All these rules are made to break. That's the law of the state. In Divar, what is happening is that, as I said, we managed to build up 4 kilometers of, we pursued it, and Tenants Association that time was very, good. So we did the plans. And today, it has become lucrative business for the fish mafia, as Vagsar said. What they are doing is that the ponds are intact. They are taking in the water, filling in the water. The farmer cannot fight. And the biggest culprits in all this are the officers of the revenue department, which starts from the revenue minister till the talati. If at all we can ask, I have asked them, show me one case in the last 20 years where a farmer is given justice. A farmer's case is heard. Nothing simple. What they do? They just take the complaint from the farmer, my field is inundated. The complaint is waiting over there till the next 6 months, and then they will ask for an inspection. Now for the inspection, who goes? The talati goes. I'm telling you, facts which has happened with me, and the case is like that. The talati goes. Talati goes without anything. He comes, does the inspection. In the court, when you go over there, they'll say which field was flooded. There is no surveyor who has surveyed that field was flooded. The case goes for a toss. You go to grow your field, the person who comes over there is the forest department saying that mangroves are in my custody. What are you going to do? There are people talking big subjects about mangroves, but where is the place of the family? In my fields? No. The mangrove should be protecting my lands. Fair enough. But who is responsible for this? The government, these people. Then the biggest, even the fish mafia, the birth is given to this by the Mamladar's office. Because I have got enough proof to prove that Mamladar is the biggest culprit for all our Khazan land failure. Now I really see the hope with you 5 people sitting over there for a farmer. Otherwise, the government is not going to do anything for the farmers. Please, and another thing, I asked in the petition to the Honorable High Court to, that mangroves which are grown in the fields, which are having survey number as fields, to be cut. And people let them grow their fields, let them try to revive the fields. And the Honorable High Court gave a direction to the Mamladar Goan Reporter. The Mamlata refused to give. I said, please, this is what is important. But in the field, this is a field you know very well. It's in the revenue books also. So there are survey numbers, 114 form says it is a field. I said, why don't you give people, and these are cultivable fields, the mangrove should be cut. It's refused to give, and that's how my entire petition work of 10 years has gone last year into drain. So these people, and another thing, the entire fields of Diwar are inundated with saline water. Every time there is an inspection, there is some person, only the Karadi Mamladar refused, but even after giving the Honorable High Court giving a direction to the Mamladar to do the inspection, he refused to come to do the inspection. There is no, and now latest thing I'll tell you, I even after proceeding to that Honorable High Court's decision, in January I filed a complaint again saying that the fields are as inundated as they were always. An inspection comes in June, and the Rati gives the report the water is due to the rainwater. So they are working the tricks, but I don't know how we'll face this. I don't know how we are going to fight this. This is a lost battle. I think we are fighting this battle with our hands tied behind. And I only see a hope in you people. And please, I think the next time we gather, I think we have to speak to the farmers. We need to speak to those people how they are suffering. Believe me, the government is not going to do anything because आमच्या कोकणी भाषा ती जी निस्त्याची सागवाद असता पळय ती सगळ्यान पाड सागवाद आणि निस्त्याची सागवाद has corrupted the entire revenue department from the minister to the Talaji. Thank you very much. This is my experience which I wanted to say. It feels like crying and I'm boiling with rage. If I get an opportunity, I can even clobber somebody. But this is what, and I'm a farmer since I was in my 10th standard. I've not left my field follower till date. It's sad, Rocky also will tell you, but for the last 2 years, because of the inundation, 2 crops, entire field is gone to the toss. But still I'm doing it. We need farmers. We need people like you to help the farmers to fight their cause. Thank you so much.
Thank you for the data.
Thank you for the data recorded it.
Thank you, Prasad. Thank you for bringing up these issues. How I wish from the bottom of my heart that I could refute these claims, that no, what you are saying is not correct. I don't know. I hope sometime that day comes sometime very soon. Anybody from the panelists would want to respond to what Prasad has said?
I would like to actually come and see your field. In fact, Golti Naveling also, because I remember in Diwali, during pandemic time, this is a very important example. During pandemic time, the people themselves built a bund. You must be knowing, we brought him and felicitated and we gave the entire money through our green skilling fund. And to my surprise, the generally bund that would have cost 8 to 9 lakhs, they did in 3.5 lakh, the people with their own sweat. That was a great example. And secondly, in Kurtarim also, when I went for several inspections, we found that they have a unique technique where a very small bund, which is, if it is made proper, then a huge land comes under cultivation. So that this type of unique techniques, and the people who are actually involved in doing, I think we will need to record them. We make their groups under green skilling, and my actually aim is means that is our effort. I don't know how far we will succeed. That all the restoration works of this bund should be given to these groups, and that's why when Elsa was working on Khazan, she has done 24 big posters which show the process of entire bun making, right from which silt is collected. Because first need is to bring this item into GSR, Goa Schedule of Rates. If these items come, normally what happens, if you see the Goa Schedule of Rates, they have the items of concrete, masonry, all the same. So if you don't have it in GSO, we made an effort where we brought PWD, WRD, everybody together. Architects we brought together. We brought Goa Engineering College together. Because what Nestor said, this technology, or what Golti Naveli person said, or what you are saying, this is done traditionally. But if the same traditional structures, they are brought into the organized system, then same people can do instead of having contractor. Because when I saw that in one of my remote village in Pedne, I come from there, a contractor from Kerala was doing a small pond. And I found why my neighbors can't do it. Means a simple question that I had many years back, but same question now, I'm trying that whether we can develop a system where we have a self-help group type of things, who are well trained, who know what is to be done. They should know billing. Sometimes I call some farmers to work, suppose they can't do bill in government sector, but there is a mechanism to pay. So I think there is little hope. Your case is very classic. It is a great learning for me, because I heard it for the first time. I would like to actually come and have a look at it. Thank you for that.
The only thing I would like to add over here is that the traditional people are fading away, but there are people who are doing. But unfortunately, the government is not doing, because commissions can't be shared over there with them. That's the worst part.
I think Prasad has raised a lot of issues which we were also talking about. It is nicely put it up. And about the GSR, again, when I look at all those files or notings where they say that as per GSR, it's just done. We had also asked a few of our MLAs to ask this question: why government is not adopting traditional practices? They say we are not following it. There is no reason given, nothing, but just a point blank answer: we have not thought of it. Recently, what they have done is some of the sluice gates right now are being replaced with FRP sluice gates, and I think some metallic component also there. But I'm not sure whether any proper study of this has been done, because it has to be made. Because earlier, even if we have to replace a sluice gate, you have to take permission or NOC of soil conservation. Now, I don't know how soil conservation department gives permissions for FRP based doors. Has that been approved? We don't know. Second issue, which one of the most important issue, where Prasad also said that he could not do anything at the High Court level, is the mangroves which have grown in the fields, and we have been also requesting government to consider that as weed, because it has actually, because we are not cultivating, water is coming, and these mangroves have been growing there. Now there has to be some policy level or some way to actually now remove these mangroves from the field so that cultivation can begin. We can't even step into the fields because of this, and as a result there are crocodiles. Like if you go through the entire Kumarjua canal, at every 5 meters you will see crocodiles being there, and they are in massive in number. In fact, we have to also conserve all that. But they are now coming towards the localities. And in fact, that bridge to nowhere, what I've said is now that bridge will be used by these crocodiles to enter into the villages. That's all.
So I just want to ask Mr. Paul, Dr. Paul, Dr. Bilal, what, according to you, are the major SOS issues facing the Khazan system, and what are the probable solutions from your experience kind of point of view?
Well, just start off where Ramra has talked about these mangroves growing in the fields. Ever since the CRZ notification is done in Delhi people don't understand what is a Khazan and how the Khazan system works. They have, in the CRZ notification, blanketed all mangrove areas as CRZ1. CRZ1 means you cannot touch. Now these, and in the notification itself, they have said that now the embankment, the outer embankment, will be considered as a high tide line for the thing. But if there are mangroves inside, in the Khazan field, they will be protected as CRZ1. So even if a farmer wants to cut mangroves, he cannot cut them because nobody will give him permission. We faced this problem in Shirgaon, where we are restoring the fields with the help of the High Court for these mining affected areas. Now there, 20% of one of the Khazans cannot be restored fully because it's been taken over by mangroves. Now here the High Court is there, they want to take over the land, they want to convert it back to paddy field, but they can't because it's CRZ now, because it's mangrove and CRZ. Mangroves are protected as CRZ1, that means they cannot be touched. But these are problems which are being created by bureaucrats. We went to court, there's a petition still pending, where we have asked the court to strike down identification of mangroves in paddy fields, as she has said, one error, because she said they are not supposed to be there. Mangroves are supposed to be on the outer side, outer embankment. They are not supposed to be inside. But they are colonizer species. The forest department doesn't put up mangroves. They have all their efforts to put up mangroves have failed. But if there is this proper environment, the mangrove will take over, because it is the colonizing species. You cannot stop it. It will take over. But it's in the wrong place. Now, why is it in the wrong place? You can prove, because in the land records it is very clear that it is a paddy field and it's a Khazan area. So you should get a proper, but no authority is willing to pass. Goa Coastal Zone Management Authority, nobody is willing to pass an order saying that you can remove the mangroves from these fields. Now what do we do? What do we do? I mean, it's a notification that you shouldn't Delhi. They don't never listen to us. They don't listen to anything. They listen to politicians who go and tell them to see how the high tide line is to be marked. And accordingly they mark the high tide line. And then they create more problems. So it's not that we are in a situation where we can envision a horizon where these problems can be solved. Actually, we are adding layer upon layer of new obstructions to see that is manage these situations well. So in that issue, we have taken to the court. In what the issues that Prasad is talking about, a group like ASK is willing to take up these matters, because we have a pending petition for the implementation of the Khazan management plan in the High Court for the moment. And normally what we do is, when a petition is filed in the High Court, is pending there, we try to file applications. We file, most people don't, you file a petition, but it may lie there, but it can lie there for 20 years. But if you want to work that petition, you can take specific villages, like the Diwar village, whatever it is, you can take them in the form of an application to the High Court and say this problem is taking place here, the embankments are being breached, and then haul the authorities up to see that something is done. So it's not just the village communities that can get together. It requires a lot of effort. It requires the BMCs are there. They are sort of a new foundation that's coming up. They can certainly help out. As a matter of fact, when the coastal zone management plan was being prepared, it's the BMCs that helped, because they would go around and tell you where the embankments are breached and so on. We asked the government, do you have any record of the number of breaches that have taken place in the Khazans in different places? There's no record. There's a very good record of the notified bunds. All the bunds which are notified, there's a record. We have got those records. We have got all that. But when it comes to having a motive power, the BMC should be made, of course, as long as Pradeep is there, things may work. Yes. But even then, we don't think in those terms. We say, okay, there is a good man there. We take the BMCs and we use them as a foundation for building a community awareness system for that particular Khazan. They don't have to worry about, I always keep telling people, don't worry about the Khazans of Goa. You worry about your Khazan. If your Khazan can be kept in good health, if you need court help, we are there to help. If you need skilling help, or the Khazan society is there, they can get people involved. But you take your Khazan and protect it. That's possible. It's possible. Don't think of all the Khazans of Goa, 18,000 hectares, that you're never going to be able to serve. You take your Khazan and see there is enough formidable power from a good biodiversity board, wetlands authority, from the government side, the only organizations that are working at a particular moment. Forget about CRZ, they are useless. And work with these organizations and the BMCs to put together. We are there, so many groups are there. We can come and we can help if you have legal problems, but technical problems, the BMCs can solve. It is possible. As I said, don't think of the whole Khazans. Think of those places where there is a good group already willing to fight, like Prasad's group, the Golting group, the Diva group, Nestor's group, they are there. And see what they can, because if they can be helped to do something, and we have got crowdfunding now, Goenkars all over the world. When we wanted to have some money for Goa Foundation for some of our matters, they flooded us with money. We had to tell them, stop, we don't want too much of money because income tax will come after us. So we are very happy with our functioning with very little money. But other places, people are willing to help. Financially, they are willing to help, because village people will put their money, we can get supplementary aid from Goenkars all over the world. They are very dying to see what they can do to help in Goa. And some active projects, 3 or 4 villages, the Khazans are being recovered and worked out. It will provide a very good incentive to the rest of Goa, and some initiative can take place. This is my opinion on this.
As a person from the administration, Dr. Sir Mukaddam, is there any workaround for this mangroves acting as weeds concept? And also a continued question in terms of what are your suggestions for revival of the Khazan system as such and the way forward?
See, mangroves follow salinity. Simple rule. Wherever the salinity goes, mangroves will grow. So, moment you cut off, you make the external burns and internal burn network is made, they have lost the salinity. Not that they will die. It is a very sturdy species. It is not easy to kill mangroves. But I was looking at some other practices I found in Japan. There was very good model which I would like to try in some place. Because what they do is around mangrove, they made a small pond-like structures like we have pond, but it doesn't have mangroves in that mostly. And then they made structures and they did agri-pisciculture where fish is also grown and paddy is also grown, and we have korokut 3-4 good varieties, kharo damgo, kharo belo, all these if we can try, they will also grow next to it. So agri-piscicle, it can be tried where mangroves are presently there. Don't allow them to grow more, which are small ones less than 30 centimeters, you don't need forest department permission, you can weed them out. Those which are big, but at the same time, one small point I want to make, where we have a big mangroves more than 50 centimeter girth, it is found that one collared kingfisher, a very, very unique kingfisher, which we have installed one research in 2-3 villages to prove that if that is proving to be a different type of species because of its habitat. I cannot comment because the study is still going on research. So these type of species only grow in such type of Khazans, which are also there. So we have to explore other options of agro-ecotourism, but I am scared of this term of ecotourism. But I can tell you one thing, if you can have guides which will show these birds, which will show the habitats, its importance, how it is, and make some money to compensate for this, because I cannot tell you to cut the mangroves at the moment, because the rule has to come as a part. But at the same time, I fully agree, mangrove in many villages is at the wrong place. And it has happened because 29 invasive species are there in Goa as per CMFRI report. This was 4 years back. The CMFRI director spoke on the stage where we had invited him, Dr. Kuldeep Lal. Where these species came from did not fall from heaven. They have come from some cultural practices of aquaculture and all these practices, which is again a threat. So fantastic word used by Paul Bab, which I regard him very highly. He said fish or food. Both are required. But then how do you maintain balance that you don't convert all your fields into fisheries? If that is the greed, then it is difficult to control everything administratively. I think as Dr. Cloud sir said, protect your Khazan, you decide what you want to do. Paddy fields, and I can promise you one thing, if with our effort of reviving Patni in one place, if you revive all few species which are salt tolerant and brand them well, you will be able to make money with your salt tolerant rice, and Khazans can be revived. But we have to make a success story. I fully agree with Nestor. Nestor is a success story. Nestor is a success story. Now considering Nestor, if there are 2-3 villages where the success story can be created, we tried it with 25 ton, but it was once. If this can be branded, I think people will come back to agriculture.